Hello, hello, and welcome to the Unhinged Binge, where I, a coffee-addicted nerd, explore the best genre that there is, horror. Today I'm joined by my buddy Kurt as we explore the Friday the 13th franchise, one film by one film, one entry by one entry, one hack by one slash. Kurt, how you doing?
Not too bad. Pleasure as always, and I'm really excited to talk about this one.
Well, so Friday the 13th, part 3. Now, this is the 3D entry, a new dimension in terror. Not my words, the actual tagline of the film.
Is that really the tagline?
It is
funny.
a new dimension in terror. It did precede Jaws 3D, but it did kind of kick off this idea of having if you can get your third entry 3D, you should do that. Craze, which lasted a little bit in the 80s, trying to bring back that gimmick from the 50s. And I think this was actually the first movie that Paramount did in 3D for decades. It had been decades since they'd done something in 3D.
Oh.
And they'd use this like special camera. This was like the first time they'd ever used this 3D camera. And personally, I think this movie, because of that, looks like garbage. Just how everything is set up like purposely for 3D, since obviously it's, math. This movie came out in 1982. We're recording this in 2024. So it's like over 40 years later. We're not watching it in 3D. So all the setup shots look ridiculous.
I got to be honest with you. It didn't bother me that much. I mean, there's like one scene that I can think of that we'll get to as we go through the movie, but I don't know. Otherwise, I didn't really notice it that much. So, yeah.
I mean, wow, way to go, you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I've seen it so many times.
Well, have you actually seen it in 3D?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Is that available still?
I don't think so. I think it was the 7th Friday the 13th movie. No, the 6th Friday the 13th film. It has sections in 3D.
Okay.
And when I bought it, like for home ownership, it came with this special Nightmare on Elm Street 3D glasses, which I really wish I still had, but I don't.
Right.
But when I bought the Friday the 13th, I don't think that they had 3D glasses with it. I don't remember, but I don't think that they came with those. Which is kind of a bummer.
The only 3D movie I remember buying, we talked about this last time, was Spy Kids 3D. And I just watched it over and over because I thought it was so cool to be able to watch a 3D movie at home. So
I don't know, but I assume that 3D technology had come a long way in the 20 years between those movies.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because this is back in the day. So I don't know. I know the Nightmare on Elm Street, it was the red-blue lenses. I don't know what this was or not.
Right.
I know like in modern, they have those like shitty, like almost sunglasses things, and they never adjust the color.
Right.
For like the darkened lens. It's really stupid.
And I'm actually not a big fan of 3D in general. I had to see, well, I didn't have to, but I probably shouldn't have. I went to see the new Avatar whenever it came out, and that was only in 3D. So not only did I have to suffer through that 3 hours, 3+ hours, but it was also in 3D. So
yeah, they spent so much time making that movie look good. They, didn't
pay attention to anything else. Right.
Yeah. So this movie, as I said, it came out in 1982. They actually got it on a Friday the 13th, August 13th, 1982. They finally landed it.
Finally. Yep.
Yes. They have the same director as the previous film, Stephen Miner, who was the producer and originator of the idea from the previous iterations. It was written by, I don't know these writers, Martin Kitteroser. I should have tried to pronounce that before I sat down. And Carol Watson, I believe they were a married couple.
Oh, cool.
It had a budget of $2.2 million and a box office of $36.7 million, which I think. So I read this on the Wikipedia that this one had of the franchise one of the most like number of tickets sold.
Okay.
And so I guess the 3D thing paid off.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure it did.
People really complained about the second one having the same plot as the first one. Right. Even though this also has the same plot. So I guess they thought the gimmick would bring people in, and they were right.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine people being excited to see something in 3D, especially at that time, because it wasn't really, like you said, this was kind of bringing it back.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely bringing it back. It didn't get huge like it would when they brought it back post Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume that has to do with the reason that stuck around so long is because the Chinese market was very invested in 3D films.
Right.
And went out in big numbers to see those. So they just maintained having 3D films because that's how they were making money, and also they could charge more, which we weren't releasing films in China in the 80s. So
Right.
I guess it was just for the gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the cast, I don't really know if anyone, like, I watch a lot of movies and TV. None of these people are particularly notable to me. Like, I don't really know
Same.
who any of these people are, but I will say that the actor portraying Jason in this particular film is Richard Brooker,
Mm-hmm.
which I think he did a really good job in terms of the stunts, but I feel really bad because I think this is the worst looking Jason personally.
I don't like it. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I am glad that he gets the hockey mask in this one, but aside from that, I'm not really a fan of this Jason.
And I will point out that this is apparently, I just read this on the Wikipedia, and I've heard a number of people say it in various like commentary and interviews, but I guess it's like a Detroit Red Wing hockey mask. Listen, the only thing I know about hockey is the Mighty Ducks, so I'm taking them at their word.
I don't know shit
Detroit
about hockey
Red
either, so.
Wings. I mean, I thought all hockey masks looked like, and I'm like, wait, different teams have different masks.
Yeah, this is
Sure.
news. This is news to me as well. So
Wild. Okay, so we're going to get down into break and talking about the plot of the film. I'm assuming it's Friday the 13th, part 3. I'm assuming if you clicked on this, you've probably seen the films, but in case you haven't, there will be spoilers. All right. Like the previous film, we do open on the third act of the previous film. Like the entire third act chase scene. Like they really are very lazy with this.
I
Like 10
really don't
solid
like
minutes.
this. Yeah. I don't understand. I mean, if they want to show like a little bit, like to refresh us, that's fine. But they literally showed the like entire finale almost. I'm like, okay, like this is a little too much.
They
You're just padding the
really wanted
runtime.
to make sure that you remember that Jenny Fields and Paul Holt both lived. I'm
Yeah.
maintaining Paul Holt lived, damn it. I will
Hell
not
yeah.
have my mind changed. And I can prove it mathematically.
Yep.
Okay. So then we have a close in, like tight shot on Mrs. Voorhees' rotting severed head in Jason's shack. And the logo comes out of her eyes. 3D logo comes right at you, I said in air quotes. And we cut from the original score that was used in the second film to this new kind of like disco remix score. What did you feel about this score? Because I love it.
I love this funky disco music. And I think I've said this before in either our first or second show or both. I already knew
Yeah.
this music, this theme, long before I watched this movie, even long before I knew I was going to have to watch it, because I watched a Schmodown and one of the guys used it as his entrance music. So yeah, I've been listening to it for a long time. It's awesome.
Do you feel like it fit with the mood of the movie? Like,
Yeah,
do you think like this fit? Okay.
yeah,
I
I
do
think so.
too.
I mean,
I
this one
think
was,
it works.
it was pretty campy, so I did think it fit, like especially with like the bikers and everything. And I was wondering if it was going to play anywhere besides the opening credits and the end credits, and it does. There's another time in the movie, and I think that was well placed as well. So yeah, I
I
really
think they
really
should
enjoyed
have
that.
used it more.
I agree, absolutely. I was hoping they
So
would.
good. There's I think the sixth movie has my favorite soundtrack, but this
Okay,
is like soundtrack. They have actual music. This
right.
was definitely my favorite score of the franchise. It's very good. All right.
Yep.
So we open on a little like grocery store or laundromat. I'm not really sure. They have bunnies and grocery store food, but also they do laundry. I'm very
Yeah,
confused what's happening in
I
this
was
little place.
confused by that as well. I'm not quite sure what was going on there,
Well, anyway, there's a married couple, Harold and Edna, and they have a contentious relationship.
to say the least. Yeah.
Yes. Harold eats some weird food. I'm sorry, it's bizarre. He eats some of his fish's food and then he washes it down by taking a swig out of a giant bottle of off-brand Sunny D and then polishes that off with a chocolate donut. Like, Harold's
I
not long for this world.
I didn't realize that was fish food. I thought it was just like peanuts or something.
Yeah,
So
he just like shakes. I thought he like shook it into the fish tank, or maybe it's definitely something you're not supposed to eat.
yeah, okay. He's a weird guy.
Yeah, definitely. Meanwhile, Edna is listening to a news report that is telling us about apparently what happened the previous night, which is the events of the previous film at Packanack Lodge, where we learned that the police have found 8 corpses, meaning freaking Paul Holt lived. Damn it,
Confirmed. Yep.
confirmed. So we know that this actually takes place the next day. So this, despite having come out in 1982, is Saturday the 14th, 1984. It's
I
definitely makes
still don't
sense.
understand why they did that with the timeline, but it is what it is.
You know, it's very strange because I know obviously they had wanted Jenny Field, the actress who played Jenny Steele or
Yeah.
Jenny Fields, to come back and reprise the role. I think she had other obligations, and or she said for whatever happened, she didn't really remember. It didn't work out that way. She was not, she didn't return,
Right.
and so they kind of rewrote it. So in terms of like that being the case, I'm a little discombobulated why they chose to pick it up on the same night instead of maybe a little forward. And that leads to even more confusion later on with how the police behave to
Yeah.
me. Like, these cops are crazy.
Yeah, that was a strange choice, but I will say something that I did like was that they didn't kill her off. I'm
Yeah,
glad they just left her alive and gave us a new set of characters, because you don't have to kill off the final girl of the previous movie to give us a new set of characters. So I appreciated that.
a lot of the final girls in this franchise do get to just go off
Good. Okay.
and live their lives, seemingly.
I like that. Yeah.
But on the downside, then we don't ever have like characters to really gravitate towards. Every installment, quite a few of these movies were introduced to like all new people.
Right.
And
It's really hard to really get invested into people when they keep doing that.
although for me, I do think I like these people kind of the best with some obvious. I don't know how much of my notes you read.
About half. Yeah.
So you picked up on my feelings about Rick and Shelley.
Yes, and I agree on both accounts. They're awful.
They were a problem. Anyway, back to the film. Okay, Jason, of course, he kills both of these people. I'm pretty sure he was just picking up some clothes from the laundry they were doing, and they decided to murder them.
Mm-hmm.
He kills Harold with, I don't know what kind of knife this is. I was gonna look it up and I forgot. It's not like what Jason has. It's more like a meat cleaver.
Yeah, meat cleaver. Yeah, I think so.
And then he kills Edna with her knitting needle. So thus far for this film, we have one female kill, one male kill. And for 1984, Jason has upped his kill count from 8 people in the previous film to a total of 10 people in 2 days.
Wow.
So way to go, Jason. I
And
guess I should compliment that. I mean, shame on you, Jason.
I like these kills, especially Harold, because unlike part 2, at least we got to see it a little bit more and it lingered on it. And that applies to almost all the kills in this movie, which we'll get to. So
yeah, I think they did a better job of getting past the censors.
Definitely. Yes.
And we'll see how that goes in the next one.
Yep.
Okay, so we cut to a baseball bat coming right at the screen. Whoa, 3D. And we meet our group that is going to our location for this film, which is Higgins Haven, which is Chrissy Higgins, like family, I guess, like summer home that they have on Crystal Lake. She's going with her friend Debbie, her boyfriend Andy, his roommate Shelly, a friend of theirs Vera, and then randomly, okay, I call them a middle-aged stoners, Chuck and Chili. I'm not going to refer to them by their names. They are Kong and Chick, discount Cheech and Chong. They're very high. They look like they're a middle-aged couple. I looked this up on the fandom wiki. They're supposed to be respectively 24 and 23 years old. Okay.
Well, I think that works for Chili. I think she looks pretty young, but Chuck looks like 50. So
I think I look younger than Chili.
probably, but you just look young in general. So
Maybe, but like, all right, I don't know.
I think it's
Sure.
believable for her. For Chuck, I
So
don't.
I guess they're like upperclassmen, and these are like college kids. And
Right.
they're like maybe a little younger.
Hmm.
Maybe Kong and Chick are getting their doctorate degrees or
It's
something.
also a little confusing that there's a character named Shelly and a character named Chili, which sound very similar. So sometimes that got a little confusing.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, anyway, all right. So whatever. These people. They're driving out to Higgins Haven. They see a police car. Oh, I should mention that the two stoners are stoners. They have drugs at this time period, and in some places even now, that's illegal. So some cops are driving past, and they start eating their drugs. So they won't, get in trouble, which I don't know if you've ever smelled pot, but it smells and it's obvious.
Yeah, I thought that was a really funny scene. All that just for the cops to just go right past them. I thought that
Yes,
was
because
hilarious.
they're collecting the murdered bodies of
Yep.
Harold and Edna. R.I.P. Harold and Edna. Man, this town is going to be really messed up after 1984. Let me tell you. We also learn around this time that Debbie is pregnant,
Hmm.
which will turn out to be, I think, very unfortunate later on.
Yes.
Spoilers: she gets murdered. And then we meet a gentleman by the name of Abel. And by meet, I mean we almost run over him, but thankfully we stopped. And Abel's literally Crazy Ralph. It's so dumb they killed Crazy Ralph off. They should have just kept Crazy Ralph. I'm calling this discount Crazy Ralph.
Yeah, it was a huge mistake to kill him off, and I'm guessing they realized that because this guy he's just not the same.
Or just get rid of the Harbinger of Doom. Like,
Sure, yeah, you don't necessarily need that in
you
every
don't
movie.
have to take your script from part 1 or 2 and copy it verbatim.
Right.
Like, you could have changed a little more. Anyway, he's holding a literal eyeball and he's like, I found this today. He wants me to have it. He wanted me to have this. He wanted me to warn you. Look upon this omen. Go back whence ye came. I warned thee. Never trust someone who uses words like whence and thee.
Hmm.
So the everyone, they take the van up. They finally arrive at Higgins Haven, which is, I think, looks pretty cute. Like, I would
Yeah.
definitely vacation there. Though we do have to get across what I'm going to call the most rickety bridge. No safety standards were passed. This is definitely not up to any kind of standard.
Hmm.
Then everyone goes down to the water while Chris goes back inside where she meets Rick, who I think almost all of these movies have what I dubbed the bland brunette love interest, all guys. And I think he's the worst of them. I mean, it's hard to compete with Paul Holt. And obviously, Christie was pretty great, Steve
Hmm.
Christie. But, oh God, Rick is such a dud.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Paul set the bar really high, but this guy, he sucks. Yeah,
Yeah,
I couldn't wait for him
he's
to
the
die.
bottom of the barrel.
Plus, he also, speaking of looking old, he looks 50 as well.
Yeah,
So
so the fandom wiki said he's supposed to be 28, but it doesn't tell me how old like Christie's
that's
supposed to be.
my age. Yeah, no way. That doesn't seem
Yeah,
right.
that guy looks archaic,
Yeah.
like decrepit.
Yep.
I mean, no offense to this guy, but what I mean is, by comparison to his love interest, visually, he looks significantly
Yes.
older to a
Yes.
point where, especially since I'm pretty sure she's pretty young,
Hmm.
I'm very concerned. Since
Yeah,
he
that
also, they've
that
been
was
dating for at
off-putting.
least 2 years.
Yeah. Seeing the two of them together was pretty jarring and off-putting. I did not like that at all.
Yeah, she comes in and he just like grabs her and pulls her in for a kiss, and then has the audacity asked if he did something wrong. And then she kind of pulls away and she's like, let's, take some time to get to know each other again. I haven't been here in like 2 years.
Hmm.
But then he really essentially implies that he's only there so they could have sex. And he
Right, and
implies this so often.
yeah, and he says something like, "Oh, I could have been with some other, I can't remember her name, but
Yeah, he says
like, all
that a
right, go
little
do
later.
that then, dude."
He's like,
God
yeah, I
damn.
could have been with this chick. And it's like, then go. Or he's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
stick around, but he can only take cold showers for so long. Fuck off.
Yeah,
Gross.
dick.
Terrible behavior. Ay. Oh, he said he could have spent the weekend with Mary Jo Conrad.
Right. There you go.
Dude, just leave. You're a
Right.
joke. Like Shelly is the jokester of the group, but Rick is the joke.
Mm-hmm. Great way of putting it.
So we hear someone scream, speaking of Shelly being a prankster. He keeps pretending to be murdered or that like he's going to kill people. I don't understand why that's considered to be a joke. It's very strange, wildly off-putting behavior. I don't know why, like a lot of people really like Shelly as a character. I don't get it. Like this is not someone I could ever spend any amount of time with.
Yeah, I feel like this is something we've talked about before and agreed on, is that I would not want to be friends with this kind of person. Like those pranks, quote unquote pranks, are just stupid. They're way too far. And it comes back around later, boy, you cried wolf style. So
Yeah, and
um
I'm cool with like a prank, but if your prank is like to I don't know, like just kind of grabbing someone's foot while they're sitting on a dock, like
sure.
you're underwater and get fine. But why did he bring a harpoon with him?
Right.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's insane.
Or like going so far as to actually make it look like you have an axe in your head. That's just a little bit too much. Like if it's Halloween,
Mhm.
yes, like that totally works on Halloween. Just randomly and to keep doing it, bro, stop.
Yeah, that's too much. If that would really piss me off if I was one of his friends. And he asks, I think Vera, he's like, I just want you to like me. It's like, well, dude, stop doing these fucking dumbass pranks then.
Yeah, I there's also that thing where I noticed this with a lot of those like there's certain type of guys who will like complain about how nobody likes them. It's like, yeah, because you're miserable. But then they'll say
Yeah.
it's because they're not good looking. Like, no, it has nothing to do with how you look, dude. It's the fact that you're an asshole. Like, you're the
Yes.
worst. Like change your behavior. And I'm sure people would have no problem with you.
Exactly. Yep.
Maybe it's like I don't know, some sort of like self-fulfilling prophecy. If I act like a jerk, then, then people won't like me and I won't have to realize, whether or not I'm good or bad looking. I don't know. Like it's very
That
odd to me.
that could be what it is. Yeah, that's an
Very
interesting theory.
strange. And I just don't get why people like him. Ugh. Maybe it's because I think people have the positive memory of him getting killed is why Jason gets the hockey mask.
Right.
And maybe there's like a positive association there.
Sure.
But, other than that, I don't know. I would love for one of these movies to have a prankster who's actually kind of funny. Like Andy, the other guy character, like he's pretty fun. Like he's like an actual human. And he juggles.
I'm sorry. Which one's Andy again?
He's the one who's dating Debbie. He's just the other guy. He's like Shelly's
Oh,
roommate.
yeah. Okay, right.
See, there you go.
By
Fun
the way,
guy.
was that
Well,
juggling real? Were they both actually doing that, like the actors?
I assume so.
Because
When
that's
he's walking
fucking.
on his hands.
It's hard. I mean, I've obviously, if you practice at it, you'll be able to do it. But I don't have time for that.
And then, like, there's that one scene where he's like walking on his hands the whole time. He's actually doing that, as far as I know. I
Yep.
know that the guy who plays Jason, Richard Brooker, he
Mhm.
actually used to be, I believe, a trapeze artist
Oh,
in a circus.
interesting. Okay.
Like if you listen to any of the commentaries and stuff like that, everyone brings that up. There's a pretty cool, like 30-minute little Friday the 13th Part 3 memoriam documentary that's pretty heavily focused on him. You can find it on YouTube. And he seemed like he was a really cool guy. Like, went
Nice.
to a lot of conventions, always really nice to fans, had a wild, like real life, story that he
Mhm.
was just one of those people that just kind of went off to do this, cool thing and that cool thing. So
Awesome.
interesting dude to look up. Anyway, back to the story. Okay, people are having it with Shelly. Vera decides to take Rick's little bug, like Volkswagen bug, to go to the store. How many stores does Crystal Lake have? Because we saw Harold and Edna get killed. Like, what store is this? They have more than one. Man, I've been to pretty big campsites that only have one store, so I'm surprised they have
Absolutely.
multiple.
Yeah.
That's a little. I'm calling this a plot hole anyway. For some reason, she takes Shelly with her, which I gotta say I wouldn't have, and if I did, I'd have kicked him out while I was driving.
Yeah. I don't
You
get
can
why
stay
she
at the
did that
store.
either. But
And while they're there, they run into some bikers, Allie,
Mhm.
Loco, and Fox. What did you think of the bikers?
Well, I actually enjoyed them quite a bit. I know a lot of people like it's a criticism of the movie, but I thought it was fun. It kind of fit the campy tone of the movie, and well, it adds to the death to the kill count. So, and it also, I think I'd rather have that than just everyone sitting around waiting to get killed. So, having this extra kind of fun conflict there, I was totally cool with that. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. I like them, and especially I like getting more. I'm gonna call them townies.
Hmm.
Like people who actually live at Crystal Lake. I mean, Rick does, I assume. But there's gonna be some people who live at Crystal Lake. I think in the fifth movie that I find completely insufferable, and
Okay.
I wish we had more bikers.
Yeah. Plus, this is the scene that I was referring to where they play the funky disco music again, which I
Yeah.
quite enjoyed.
So they have a confrontation, and Shelly ends up making it worse by when they go to drive away. This dumbass puts it in reverse and backs over their bikes, which this happens in a lot of movies where they're bikers. Usually, someone's going to back into their bikes. That's just a really common trope in films. It's like
Hmm.
a pretty niche trope, but it is definitely a trope.
Oh yeah.
I think they even did it in that Pixar movie Onward, which was pretty funny because those
I
were
haven't
like
seen it,
little.
so
Oh, that movie's so cute. I love it. Sad though. Endearing. I liked it. Got a rough start because of 2020.
right.
Anyway, not important. So and then he decides to like actually floor it and purposely run over Ollie's front tire or rear tire. Not sure. Motorcycles are kind of confusing sometimes. It's the front of the back. There's only two. And I'm sure that will have no repercussions whatsoever.
Of course not. So
Yeah.
first of all, don't let Shelly drive. Like,
Don't let Shelly do anything. The
yeah,
man's
seriously.
incompetent.
And then on top of that, I going back, like he should have just let it go and just left at that point. But going back to run him over on purpose, idiot.
But Ollie did break the windshield and
I know, but
the
still,
driver's window.
just yeah,
I
still just
did.
let it go. Yeah.
I don't like Rick, but I did feel a little bad for his vehicle. I'd be real mad.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm like, getting your window replaced is kind of expensive,
Hmm.
and I don't think Shelly's going to pay for it, even though he should.
I doubt it. Doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would pay for that.
Then, oh my God, a yo-yo! It's coming right at the screen. Ah. So we have like our characters that are kind of hanging out outside, having a good time, soaking up the rays. Rick is upset about his vehicle and starts to leave, but Chris, kind of convinces him to stay. So they end up, I can talk, going for a ride. I would never go for a ride with this guy.
Hell no.
Why would you get in the car with him? Ugh. Apparently the bikers did follow Shelly to Higgins Haven. That is so hard to say.
Hmm.
Higgins Haven, which I gotta say, they got there fast and quiet. I'm a little confused by that, but
They
I'm
really
gonna
did.
go with
Yeah.
it.
Like we didn't notice it at all. All of a sudden, they were just siphoning the gas. Like, oh,
Yeah,
all right.
so which I think is great. Like, I do think these scripts do a very good job of setting up why our characters can't get help.
Yes,
Although
for
I
sure.
don't know if they said anything about the phone.
Uh,
Call any dialogue about
not
that,
that I can recall.
which they probably should have at least like said, "Oh, we don't have a phone here," kind of
Right.
just a breezy one line to explain that.
Sure.
But they also don't show anything about the phone, so I think that's fine. Maybe they just kind of forgot.
Hmm.
Anyway, our bikers go into the barn, and Fox gets a pitchfork in the neck off screen, and Loco finds her and then gets a pitchfork in the abs, raising our kill count to 4. 2 women, 2 men, and our total 1984 kill count is now at 12 people in 2 days.
So we didn't really get to actually see Fox's death, but we did see like her hanging
Yeah.
afterwards, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think sometimes that stuff is kind of hard to do with like a harness. I'm sure
Hmm.
really uncomfortable.
Hmm.
But it is a pretty good looking, I think.
Yeah.
And then the Ollie stuff confuses me a little. So he comes in and finds
Me
the
too.
body,
Yeah.
grabs machete, then Jason knocks him out, and then you see him Jason get some sort of weapon. I couldn't quite tell what it was.
Hmm.
It looked kind of like the machete or a meat cleaver again, something, but he's like beating I'm assuming Ollie's head with it. It's kind of obscured a bit, but when at the end we find out that Ollie is alive and he, has a little bit of a head wound, but nothing that looked like what Jason was doing.
Yeah, I was confused about what happened there. Like, where was he stabbing him or beating him, and how did? I mean, Jason doesn't leave people alive, so I don't. Yeah, I'm confused about what happened there.
I'm just like, we've seen Jason, like he has pretty good eyesight and pretty
Yeah,
good aim,
yeah,
and he's standing right over him. You telling
right.
me he didn't hit him? Come on.
That was weird.
And we also know he's strong. Like,
Yep.
he literally squeezed a man's head like a grape. Come
Hmm.
on. He should have killed Ollie there. It's weird that he came back. You know who should have came to save Chris?
Who's that?
Fucking Paul
Paul
Holt.
Holt. There we go.
Okay,
That would
anyway,
have
so
been awesome.
that would be great. I would have stood up and cheered the first time I saw this if
Hmm.
that happened. Like, now that's a return character.
Yep.
Well, anyway, Chris and Rick, or it looks like Rick drove Chris out to like the woods so they can have this discussion. And this gets so weird. Like, she tells him about this issue that, or this traumatic event that happened to her 2 years ago, so 1982. She got home from a date with Rick and got in trouble with her parents because she missed curfew. And honestly,
Hmm.
I'm with her parents. Rick's a douche. She shouldn't be dating him.
Yep.
Like, stay away from trouble. Anyway, so she has a bad fight with her mother who slapped her. So she runs outside and ends up having an encounter with Jason, which is pretty violent. And then she says she doesn't remember what happened after that. And to me, this seems like it has a pretty like heavy implication of what happened. But she says she woke up, safe and sound in her bed the next day, and her parents, and she just never talked about it. And that's just like, that seems very out of character for everything we've seen so far and going forward with Jason. It's just so weird that they gave her this backstory.
Yeah, this was really odd to me. I don't like it at all. First of all, it doesn't
Same.
even really make much sense. I don't entirely understand what happened. But also, like, it stops the movie dead to do this. And the backstory with Jason and her is not necessary.
It's
Like,
not.
she would be just as good of a final girl if it weren't for that. So
If
it was
anything,
totally, they could have cut that.
it makes things more convoluted because then I was
Yeah,
thinking, like, has he been stalking her this whole
right.
time? So
Yeah,
like he finally cracked when he saw his mom get murdered. He went and killed the girl who murdered his mother, and then he does nothing for 5 years and then just goes on a murder spree the same weekend she happened to return.
it's
It's
really weird and
weird.
confusing. Such an unnecessary inclusion there. Yeah,
Yes.
did
And
not
I
like
also took the time to write in my notes that apparently his car battery died, so they have to walk back to camp. And I wrote, man, Rick is useless.
Yeah.
This is the worst. Like, you drove her all the way out here when you knew your vehicle had battery trouble and you left the battery on so you could have headlights. Why? Eh. Some people just have no foresight
Mhm.
whatsoever. Anywho, so they walk back. Meanwhile, Shelly and Andy are having a juggle off. I'm being literal, like they're both juggling. I
Yes.
said it and I'm like, that sounds very
It
strange.
doesn't
maybe
sound
I
great.
should
Yeah, but
maybe I should be more specific. They're both juggling and they're having like a competition to see who could like keep that going the longest. Meanwhile, Kong and Chick are just passed out, totally blitzed. Debbie suggests that Andy, has a better use for his hands. It's a bit suggestive, so they go upstairs, which leaves essentially Shelly and Vera alone together.
mhm.
Oh man. Shelly kind of flirts with Vera, but she kindly, and I emphasize that kindly, turns him down and suggests
Yep.
that, maybe they talk. Shelly, he calls out, sure, yeah, that's fine. And then when she walks away, he calls her a bitch. And at that point, I'm just waiting for Shelly to die because I
Yeah.
just can't
Fuck that dude.
stand him. Just neat. I mean, at this point, I'd be cool with like Paul Holt just coming in and killing him. Like,
Sure. Anything. Yeah.
hey. I'd be cool with one of his. Have you seen Bodies, Bodies, Bodies?
I have.
I'd be cool with him just accidentally hitting
Oh,
himself
totally.
with one of his
That would be
pranks.
hilarious.
That would be so funny. That would have been the ultimate way to end this movie. Shelley didn't
Now,
even get killed by Jason. He
now,
just tripped and fell on his axe.
yeah, now I kind of wish that happened. Now that you put that out there.
This is why I can't make movies because I'm just too random. Anyway, so Kong wakes up and he walks out barefoot. This boy's always going places barefoot, and I walk so many places barefoot too, but I never walk barefoot in water or in grass because I took biology when I attended university, and that class made me so paranoid about all the gross things that can enter your skin when you're walking around barefoot. It's nasty. Footwear is important. Anywho,
Yeah, I'm almost never barefoot except when I'm sleeping. I don't want to take any chances,
I don't like footwear. I said this as today I went shoe shopping, and I never go shoe shopping, but I either want to be in the highest of high heels or barefoot.
Interesting.
So strange. Anyway, they think Shelly's in the barn, so they go to scare him, but he's not there. Meanwhile, Shelly is actually out terrorizing Vera. As I said earlier, she's sitting on the dock, and he goes under. He got in a wetsuit really fast. It's like he goes in a wetsuit under.
Those take a while to get into.
Yeah, they're not easy. And he pulls her foot to scare her, which, okay, in terms of pranks, I feel like if you're someone and particularly if you're a woman or a girl near water with a bunch of guys, you're going to get thrown in. I just feel like that's an automatic going to happen. I don't know. In my experiences, that's just what happens. Or if you're, out, if someone has a water gun, they're just going to spray you. It's what it is. And I think that's fine. What crossed the line again is that he brought the harpoon with him.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why.
That was really strange. There's no good reason for him to have that.
Really, there isn't. And she kind of tells him off, and she asserts that, people would like you if you weren't such a jerk all the time.
Basically what we said earlier. Yep.
And then unfortunately, well, while Kong and Chick are in the barn, we kind of get the idea, the film kind of presents the idea that Jason's there, like it builds up the tension, but then it cuts away and we find that Jason is actually now has the harpoon. Don't know how he got it. I maybe missed that. And he kills Vera. So sad about that. Vera did not deserve to die.
I agree. It was a cool kill though. And I thought the effects were pretty good. I mean, it's not quite Tom Savini, but they were pretty good. I thought that was a cool kill.
So
go ahead.
No, I've heard in some places I see that Stan Winston did some of the effects for this film, particularly the Jason makeup.
Yeah.
But I looked it up and I didn't see his name credited. Which,
Okay.
I mean, a lot of times you have a lot of people working on these things, and Stan Winston is one of the more famous makeup effect artists now, and maybe he wasn't at the time. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's just something that they remember. Like, I remember working with Stan Winston, at this point. I don't know. I mean, he's probably most famous for doing he did some of the effects for Planet of the Apes.
Oh,
the original.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of people worked on these, and I do think they did a good job. I think the only effect that doesn't look bad is probably one that's the most famous, which I almost said Paul Holt. Nope, Rick, which would be Rick's head squeeze. The head just looks very, very, very fake.
Yeah, that one. We'll wait till we get to that in the story, but
also hard to make.
This is when Jason gets the hockey mask, correct?
I'll be honest. I must have been looking down and I just totally missed the scene, but I literally wrote that in my notes. I missed when Jason gets the hockey mask from Shelly. See, Shelly's walking down and meets Jason. I think he talks to him for a second, and then Jason ends up. Shelly gets killed. Well, he gets his throat slit off screen, but he's still alive when we see him on screen suffering from the wound, and then dies on screen.
Boy Who Cried Wolf. I mean, I think it was it Chili who didn't believe him? Mm-hmm. Can't blame her. I mean, the dude's been pranking you guys this entire time, and now it's actually real, and they don't believe him. So that's his own fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I was saying is, I don't think we actually see Jason put the mask on.
No.
We just see him kind of walk out there with it on, and Vera thinks that it's Shelly, and then he shoots her with a harpoon gun. So.
And that's another thing where it's people keep confusing Jason with Shelly. Dude, Shelly's 5'8".
Right.
Jason's 6'4".
Totally different builds.
All need glasses.
Right.
very different builds. Shelly's
Mhm.
got this like poofy curly hair.
Mhm.
It's very recognizable. Jason is bald. Like, what is
Yeah,
wrong
it's
with
like, "You
you?
guys have eyes? Come on." But,
That's
yeah,
like
I
ridiculous.
I think it was cool that he finally got the hockey mask because now it feels like, okay, now we're really into it. Like now we're getting going. And
Yes.
oh
And this
shit,
film, I think we see his like face more than any other film.
I yeah, I think you're right.
In
That's
any film that we're going forward. And
mhm,
any film going forward, you'll note that his face might get revealed at the end of the movie, and it's like a big shock.
right.
Particularly as going forward, he kind of starts to he's not decomposing, but also he is. And I do think that they keep a really good job of remembering like what wounds he sustained, what stuff happens to his mask. Like I think they do a pretty good job continuity wise of like what he would look like at this point, which
Sure.
is pretty good.
So I said before, I'm not a massive fan of this version of Jason, this Jason look, aside from the hockey mask, because then it feels like Jason more than like the Baghead did. I really don't
Yeah.
like that one. So for that reason alone, I prefer this version, but far from perfect.
Well, wait till we keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, so Debbie and Andy are having a fun time rocking the hammock.
hmm
Nope, that didn't work. Terrible euphemism. I mean, literal, but
Well, yeah.
you get what I'm saying. Then afterwards, Debbie takes a shower. I'm assuming she's peeing while she's in there, which is just PSA. You should do post coitus. Anyway,
Right.
Andy walks in on his hands because he's also, like I said, he's also kind of a funny guy, kind of a prank, a little bit of a
hmm
prankster, but he does humor in a good way. Shelley's an idiot. Anyhow, he goes out to get, I got confused by this, Debbie a beer, even though she's pregnant, which I'm pretty sure by 1982, like, we knew that
I
wasn't
feel
like
like people
anything while
knew that
pregnant
at that point.
was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So
well,
that's
I guess
odd.
whatever. Andy gets,
Well,
I wrote, he
hold
gets,
on though. Sorry,
oh,
one
okay.
sec. But she did say that she actually didn't want the beer anymore. Um,
Yeah, that's
so
true. That's true.
that's
But she
something.
initially decided to take it, and
Yeah.
that's concerning. Anyway, Andy meets Jason, and I wrote he gets cut hot dog style in the hot dog.
hmm
But
That one
I was
was
proud of that one.
that one was brutal. Like even though it doesn't
Yes.
really show you much, it's like he's upside down, he turns his head around and like oh god,
And I
that
think
ugh.
that the like how they angled the camera to be able to look up at him, so we're upside down. We're not upside down, but it's like where the camera's the floor, and so
Yeah.
he falls into the lens essentially.
Yeah,
I
that
thought that
was
was really good looking.
it was. That was a really cool kill. I like that one.
And then sadly, Debbie gets Kevin baconed. Like Jason is underneath her hammock and like grabs her forehead and runs the knife through her chest. I think they did a really good job with this effect.
That one looked really good. Yep. And again, they lingered on it a lot
They
longer than
did.
they did like in part 2.
So I wasn't.
Also,
Oh,
uh the book that she was reading, we get a Tom Savini reference in there,
I didn't know
which
this. What is it?
you didn't notice that?
No.
Oh my god. So she's like reading some book and it says something about Tom Savini, master of makeup effects or something like that. And that's in the movie. So I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of cool. That's like a fourth wall
He
break."
does have, I think, 3 volumes of a book,
Okay.
and there's also a pretty good
But
documentary.
well,
I
no,
would
it was
definitely
just like
recommend.
a magazine and there was like an article about him or
Oh, is
something.
it
And then
Fangoria maybe?
maybe. And then the next page was something about Godzilla. So I thought that
Oh,
was cool
man.
too. So you get a Tom Savini reference and a Godzilla reference, and then she gets killed.
So I thought I would
So
note since you said that, I was thinking about it, and, like, I think maybe a lot of people don't realize this, particularly with lower budget, like, indie horror movies,
mhm.
a lot of them will have Fangoria in the movie, which you may know. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you probably know what Fangoria is, but
Mhm.
it's like a horror movie. Like, it's a magazine dedicated to horror movies, and a lot of times they would do that, so Fangoria would put them in their magazine since they featured them, like, it would work kinda like my
Yeah,
especially just
I
like
assume
mine.
that's what it was. I didn't catch
Um
it, but
I think sometimes that works, sometimes it didn't, but it's always kind of fun to see it,
mhm.
and I think that's ended up being how we get some of the original characters that are aware of horror movies in horror movies, which is, the people who are walking so Randy Meeks and Scream could run.
Right, right. Okay.
But that's the kind of evolution of that.
So I
Yes.
wonder though, So when Tom Savini comes back for the next one, right?
Yes.
Do you know when they decided that?
So I think the next one does come out the next year. I might be
Okay.
no. I think the next one comes out in 84. I
Well,
could look it up right now. I just have to click 2 buttons, I
so I
think.
I wonder if there was like even more of a meaning to this, to where it's like they're putting him in there, they're praising him, and that's a way of saying, "Hey, we want you back, come back." But maybe they already knew he was coming back. I don't know.
So the next one, yeah, comes out in 2 years later, 1984.
Oh,
And it takes place in 84. They actually did it. Those
they
sons of
finally got
bitches
it right. Yep,
finally
they
got it.
finally caught up.
But he has stated in many interviews the reason he came back is because the next one, if you don't know, it is Friday the 13th, the final chapter,
Yeah.
and this was supposed to be the last one, and that is why he agreed to
Right.
come
Okay.
back because he was there for the start and he assumed they'd be there for the ending. And they actually have one of the protagonists is his name is Tommy, and
Hmm.
he likes
I've heard of
making
Tommy. Yep.
monster masks,
Right.
and he is named for Tom Savini.
Right. So seems like it was just a cool Easter egg then, which is fun. And then
Yeah.
the Godzilla thing too, because we're both big fans of Godzilla. I enjoyed that quite a bit.
I actually don't know who made the original suit, and I should look that up.
Hmm.
Anyway, uh, where was I? Okay, so we are with Andy and Debbie both killed. We have our kill count. So I wasn't really sure because we do know Debbie is pregnant. So I decided to make the kill count at this point 7.5, but I don't know if I should just say 8 or not.
I was wondering about that because you had the 0.5 in your notes. I'm like, what's the 0.5 for?
I
But
just
yeah,
couldn't decide. So I just
uh,
went with 0.5.
I think you should. I think you probably should count it. That's what I would say. But
Okay, so we'll
I,
say oh, it gets complicated.
yeah.
We have 8. We have 4 women, 3 men, and 1 terminated pregnancy,
Hmm.
so which brings our kill count in 1984 up to 16.
Hmm. That's a
All
lot.
right. And that will end up making the kill count for this movie 13 if we do that instead of
I
12.
I assume that's the highest of the three
So
so
far,
far.
yes.
Yeah.
So far, yes. All right, Kong goes down into the basement to fix a fuse box. The basement clearly has a leak. He's barefoot. He's
God,
going to fix something with the electricity. I don't even think Jason killed him. I think he killed himself. He was gonna die regardless.
he might have. And yeah, I don't going bare feet down there. It's like, oh God, come on, man. That's
Like, absolutely not. Man, I'm always so paranoid when I change. I've like changing a fuse makes me so paranoid. I'm always like, all right. I've texted someone. I'm like, if you don't hear from me in 20 minutes, I've definitely electrocuted myself and I am dead. Please take care of my dog.
yep.
Anyway, yeah, Jason throws him into the fuse box. R.I.P. Kong. And then Chick finds a dead Shelly, and after not thinking he's dead, realizes he actually is, and she proceeds to. I guess she's acting. She's on screen and crying.
Hmm.
That is happening. I don't want to be mean, but I don't think this particular performer did a very good job of like maybe they should have got someone who's a little better at screaming. Like if you're hiring
Sure.
someone to be in a horror movie, you gotta make sure they can scream. And
Yep.
I feel like maybe wasn't very good at that. She did the stoner part really well, but this part I felt like she just kind of lacked.
Yep. I
Um,
agree.
and she ends up getting killed by Jason, who uses like a fire poker to skewer her, which brings our kill count to 11. 5 women, 5 men, 1 terminated pregnancy, which brings our total kill count 1984 to 19.
Wait, can I jump back to something real quick?
Mhm. Yeah,
So are Debbie and Andy the only people that had sex in this movie?
they are.
And also that was the only nudity, which was not much. So it was different. Something I noticed was that there was barely any sex or nudity in this one. So I wonder why that is.
I assume that was done for the censors.
Right.
That is
But there
my
was
presumption.
more gore though.
Yeah, I think that
So
was the take. It's
right,
like
okay.
it's kind of a one or the other.
Sure.
Like if
Okay.
we cut the scenes with the nudity, can we keep the gore?
Yeah. And I think it was the right choice because the kills were way better in this one for that reason, because they lingered on it way more.
Absolutely. And also the budget was, higher for this movie because the camera they used and the amount of time it took to set up, so the amount of time it took to set those shots up is actually very time consuming.
Hmm.
And from my understanding with like things I've read and interviews I've listened to, is that they seemed to not care as much about the acting as they did setting up and getting the shot right. And some of those shots took so long, like the
Right.
shot where I think Shelly throws the wallet. Like that apparently took like all day because you have to get it right at the camera.
Well, they didn't, like we said before, they didn't get anyone like well known at all. I didn't recognize any of these people in the
Well, my
cast.
my my point was, sorry, is that I think maybe a lot of people don't know this, is that when you have a nudity scene, they have to pay you more.
Oh, okay.
So that might have been something that maybe they didn't want to do and maybe didn't want to take the time to do. Also, I'll note that if they don't negotiate that into your contract beforehand, then they can get out of paying you if they decide like on the day that you should go nude and you do it.
Right.
So to any performers out there, don't go nude unless you already have that negotiated into your contract.
Yep.
Anywho, moving on. So Chris and Rick finally make it back to Higgins. So hard. Higgins Hagen. No, can't do it. Higgins Haven. Oh my God. They find like at first the door won't open. They finally get it open. The food's burning, which is popcorn, which made me think of Scream. And they can't
Yeah.
find anybody around. Rick tries to abandon her like he's freaking Fred Jones in Scooby Doo. And he just goes and F's off, even though she clearly says, hang on, I want to come with you. And you know what? Ha ha to him because he immediately gets fucking killed.
Yeah, and that kill is, it looks horrible. Like
I think the idea is really great, but
yeah. No, the idea, yes, for sure.
they didn't have the ability to do it very well,
Right.
unfortunately. They have Jason crush a head. It's very obviously a fake head. The eye pops out. I think it's just, if this was something that we saw maybe from the back, it would have looked great. It's the dead eyes that in the skin texture that's just like
Yeah, it's a really cool idea for a kill and it's unique, but the eye popping out just looked so bad. It took me
And
right out of it.
it brings me back to that thing with Ali where it's like Jason can literally crush a man's head
Right.
and he couldn't kill
He couldn't
Ali
kill
when
that
he's
guy when he was right.
unconscious.
Yeah, the guy was laying down and he was like stabbing him over and over. That doesn't make any sense.
Ridiculous. Our kill count's now 12. And we only have one more left. Then we get our third act chase scene, which is the, same thing as the last two movies. We just have Chris left. She's kind of wandering around. She can't find Rick. He's dead. Don't worry about it, girl. Go live your life. Some water is overflowing from a bathtub because the water's running. Don't know why he didn't shut it off. Jason took the time to take a tea kettle off to prevent one of the people getting, noticing that final girl from the first movie was murdered by him in the second movie. Took the time to take the tea kettle off. In this movie, he's like, I'm just going to let the bathtub run. What happened to his planning? I just sensed it. Anyway, she finds Andy's body strung up outside in the woods. How did it get there? When did he take the time to do that? How did he get it to set up to fall at that time? I have many
Yeah.
questions. It's
Killers
fine.
are always doing stuff with bodies in such short amounts of time that it doesn't make any sense. That's something we kind of just have to get past.
She runs back inside screaming for Rick. Jason throws his dead carcass through the window and then comes in. You'll watch through these movies. Jason has a habit of just busting through windows and doors. It's pretty funny. I love to see it. Like every movie has like the obligatory Jason bust through a window or door shot.
Okay.
And I think we did definitely see the last one at the end of the movie, and we definitely see it here. I don't know which one's like the most well known. I feel like maybe it was in the seventh movie.
Okay.
I think. Oh, definitely the seventh movie. Can't wait for it. So she runs upstairs and throws like a library-sized bookshelf at him. Way to go. She hides. She's being very, very smart. She stabs him in the knee and he screams, which I think is weird. Personally.
I agree. And this scene kind of solidified why I don't really like this Jason. Just didn't really seem very scary or intimidating. Plus, like you said, I don't like the screaming. Like that felt really weird to me. And I don't
Yeah,
know
like
if any of
it's
the other movies have that, but
not
no?
really. He
Okay, good.
becomes progressively more nonverbal, I
Okay.
guess.
Okay.
Yeah. So like as you watch the movie, it kind of like goes back and forth on whether like he definitely used to be able to speak, and he
Mhm.
definitely stopped speaking at some point. So I have many questions regarding this.
Mhm.
But he'll speak again in one scene
Oh,
that is so horrible.
oh, great.
Oh man, I can't wait. It goes full Chad. It's amazing.
Oh, jeez.
Um,
You're not gonna tell me which one that is either, are you?
do you want to know?
No.
Okay. She dives out the window, and he catches her, and then she like pulls out of her jacket to drop down to the floor. It's good. It's a good scene.
Mhm.
She tries to get into the van, but if you recall at the beginning, the biker stole the
They took
gas.
the gas.
So she's
Yep.
only able to get to the bridge, and while getting there, she nearly runs over Jason. Like smart, making good moves. Love to see it. She ends up being able to get back into the barn, but Jason comes in and locks them both in. So now they're in a cage match, man. All right. SummerSlam 1984. Let's go. We'll win.
So,
But
speaking of smart moves, I like that she rolled up the window on his hands as well. That'll kind of, keep him busy for a few seconds so she can kind of get away. So she's smart and resourceful. I liked her.
so resourceful.
Mhm.
Definitely love her for that. She ends up knocking Jason out with a shovel and then hanging him. I would have maybe tried to get out a back way or through any other kind of way other than walking around his hanging body. That didn't seem right. Anyway, he gets
Not
out of
ideal.
that because
Yeah.
he's Jason. But then, holy shit, out of nowhere, Ollie's alive. And then, no, he's not because he gets immediately killed. That was fucking pointless.
Yeah, that made no
Uh,
sense. What was the
so
point
that
of that?
just did not need to be there, but it gives our kill count to 13.
Mhm.
5 women, 7 men, 1 terminated pregnancy, and our total kill count of 1984 is now 21 in 2 days.
Wow.
Jason is really going at it.
Yeah, he's not fucking around.
And it's only at this point I feel like that Chris realizes that he was her former attacker from 2 years ago, which again just made me realize that like I don't understand. Like, did Jason have an obsession with her? Is that why he's going after them? I just
To
should there have been a picture of her in his shack? And it's also like I don't like the idea of sexualizing Jason. That just
I
feels
agree.
very weird to me. Like
Yep.
this isn't a Daniel Ferran's version of Halloween, damn it. No
Yeah,
one's gonna get that joke but me. It's fine.
yeah, right over my head. Uh, totally pointless backstory there. I again don't understand why they did that.
And also, we don't have to have a women having that backstory
No,
to have them have any kind of motivation. I think just having the
right.
crazy man trying to kill you is
That's
motivation.
motivation enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I can say for me, like, I'm just out here, I'm living my life. I don't think I have a weird backstory. Maybe I do. But if someone came at me with a machete, bitch, I'd run. I
Exactly.
don't need any kind of life experience to teach me that.
Mhm.
Well, no, don't need any kind of life experience to teach me that.
Right.
Maybe a little bit more cardio work, but no knowledge, no trauma. She ends up axing him in the head and dents the hockey mask, which
Hosky.
hockey mask will have the dent going forward, which I like. Again,
Oh, good.
they're
Yeah,
having
that's good
continuity.
continuity.
And the thing
Yep.
I also like is that Jason keeps the same hockey mask, unlike Michael, who somehow gets the same fucking mask, meaning that goddamn mask company is still manufacturing that mask that this horrible serial killer has been using for decades and profiting off the murder
Yeah.
of people. And I feel like the ultimate villain of the Halloween saga is the mask company, meaning Halloween 3 Season of the Witch was right. It's the mask companies, man. They're the evil ones.
Can't
That's
argue
not
with that.
relevant, but I felt like I needed to say it. I drank a lot of coffee before doing this.
Yeah, I can tell.
Anyway, then we get I didn't like this dream sequence.
Me neither. I
It's
don't
just
get it. It's weird, unnecessary.
it's a replay of Alice Hardy from part one.
Yep.
She goes out and gets on the canoe and goes out on the lake. and she's laying out on the lake, and from out of the depths of the water, which actually they filmed this in California and they didn't actually have a lake. They
Uh,
just filmed the camera very low to the ground, and
oh,
it's just a
really?
small little mud pond with like 2 feet of water.
Interesting. Okay.
So from out of the depths of 2 feet of mud water pops the rotting corpse of Pamela Voorhees, which how would Chris Higgins even know about this?
Right.
Okay, whatever. Anyway,
And I
oh,
feel like,
whoa, hey, they really subverted my expectations with that one. It's not little boy Jason or adult Jason. It's dead Pamela Voorhees' body with the head reattached. Shocking.
yeah, so many of these
Ah.
slasher movies have to have like that one last scare.
Well, I think for this one specifically, yeah, I mean this franchise, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Specifically, yeah, they do want your the last seat jumper. I think that's what they're called, or that's what Tom Savini calls them.
Feet jumper. Okay.
But it's just dumb at this point. Like
Yeah.
I feel like this franchise feels like they need to do it because they've done it,
Hmm.
but they don't because it
No.
doesn't really make
Yeah.
sense.
This one especially did not work at all.
Yeah, and then we cut back to like what reality where she's clearly had like a mental break, which I don't like that either, but that's another time. That doesn't really matter. I just don't like it.
Hmm.
Anyway, so there's these cops talking, and I gotta say, these cops are being so fucking cavalier when we have like 21, well, 20, because they don't know when chick's pregnant yet. So
Right.
20 dead people in a 48-hour period, and they have like no stress, no concern, not chain smoking, not calling in the state police, not like nothing. What?
Right.
Like
Very
what?
strange.
I guess technically there would be one more body because our last scene is the camera closing in on Jason's seemingly dead body with the axe in his head in the barn.
Hmm.
And then we get that sweet, sweet disco vibe music.
Well, I think showing him there was telling us that he's going to be back. Like normally when they at the end of the movie when they like really zoom in on a body dramatically, oh, they're coming back. And then yeah, of course, and enjoy the music as always.
And that music's so
It's
great.
it's so good. I just listen to it all the time, whether I'm driving or working out or whatever. It
Okay,
never a bad
so
time.
let me ask you this. I think it would have been better if the camera began pulled forward more onto Jason's face at that point and his eye opened.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I thought they were going to do. So I think that would have been better.
Yeah, but instead we just seem, I don't know, sleeping, healing.
Sure,
I
taking a
don't
break.
know.
Yeah,
How did he heal from his previous wounds inflicted by Jenny Fields in 24 hours? Who knows? Who's to
who
say?
knows?
And also, in this 48 hours, like, is he hungry? Did he get any coffee? He's been up for a while. Like, he definitely needs to rejuvenate.
That's a good point. Yeah. So he probably is sleeping then. The tuckered out boy.
All right. So if you're looking at these three movies, like what's your ranking?
I would go 3, 1, 2.
Three, one,
So,
two. Okay,
yeah, this
interesting.
is my favorite of the three so far, mainly because of the music, the campiness, the kills, and I like the final girl. So, and Jason gets the hockey mask. So, two, it was really brought down for me by Baghead Jason and the fact that we barely get to see the kills. They cut away so quickly. And then, one, I really liked Betsy Palmer and the finale, the stuff leading up to that, not quite as much. So overall, I enjoyed this one the most.
I think I'd go three, two, one. Just
Okay,
right in order, I
interesting.
think. But to be honest, like I really like these movies, so
Yeah,
that's not like putting one at the bottom isn't really saying much.
yeah, and
Also, I just like camp.
same, and I'm looking forward to continuing on and seeing where they all rank. Because again, a reminder, you already know this, but for the audience, these are all going to be first time watches for me, all the way up until Freddy versus Jason, which is a ways away. So,
Yeah, I've been thinking about whether or not to do Freddy versus Jason before or after Jason X. 'Cause in terms of like chronologically of the films, Freddy versus Jason precedes Jason X, but in terms of like release order, Jason X precedes Freddy versus Jason.
I think I'd probably stick with release order, but that's up to you. I mean, this is your rodeo, so
I just wonder, like, if you watch Freddy versus Jason first, does Jason X make any sense or not? I've never watched them in that order.
right.
Even though,
Yeah,
like I said, like that's the order that they go in.
totally up to you. Whatever you think is right
Well,
in
I'll
regards to
figure it
that.
out. It's a little while before then.
Cross that bridge when we come to it. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I have a link to Kurt's YouTube down below, and I'm sure you can find his other social media platforms.
Mm-hmm.
There, he just released a video ranking the what is it called?
The Monsterverse. Yeah.
Monsterverse? Because then I was
Yep.
thinking, isn't that what Universal was doing with that the thing they decided not to do with
No,
Jurassic Invisible Man?
that's called something else, I think. But yeah, the Monsterverse with like starting with Godzilla 2014 and then up until Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire. 5 movies in total. So
Which is super important because Godzilla and Kong are awesome. Anyway,
yes.
all my stuff's also linked below. I also have a transcript of my notes and a link to that little documentary that I thought was pretty good, which is the memoriam for Richard Berger. And anyway, I think that'll do it. And if you excuse me, I have some oozing to do. Stay with the rainbows.